So I used to sit at my desk, I was staring at the screen or at the window, and I just felt this tightness in my chest. I planned to work on my business, I scheduled the time, I put it on my calendar, and I told myself that today would be different, but I couldn't make myself start. My hand just would reach out for an iPhone and I would just start scrolling. And that scrolling would turn into an hour, and then I would look at the clock and I would feel sick because it's another day, another plan that I didn't follow through, another reason to hate myself. And then I'd go to bed promising myself that do better tomorrow. Tomorrow came, same thing happened. And so for years, I thought that discipline was the problem. I thought if I just beat myself up enough and I forced myself harder, I would finally start. But I was wrong, because the problem wasn't discipline. The problem was that I didn't understand what was actually stopping me. So today, I share something that changed everything. The real reason why you are still waiting to start your business. And I promise you, it's not because you're lazy. You're listening to the Expert Producer School podcast with your host, Paulina Solda, episode number 17. Why are you still waiting to start your business? Hi, everyone. I want to talk about the question that haunts every woman who's trying to build something while working 9 to 5. And the question you might be asking yourself at 11 p.m. when you're laying in bed, replaying another day where nothing happened towards you building your dream. Why can't I just start? You have a dream, you have ideas, you might even have a plan that's sitting in your notes and it's just getting dusty every week. But when it comes to actually doing something, creating content, reaching out to someone, potential client, taking that first step is scary and something stops you and you don't know what it is. So you assume that it must be you, that you're lazy, undisciplined, that you're not cut out for that everyone else seems to be doing it, why can't you? So you tell yourself, oh, I just need more willpower. I need to try harder. I need to stop being so weak. So I also told myself that story for years. I'd schedule time to work on my business. I would block it on my calendar like it was important. And I told myself this week will be different. And then the time came and I just feel this heaviness, like my body was filled with sand. I would look at my laptop and I would just feel nothing but dread. And then I would just pick up my phone and start scrolling a minute, then another hour. And then what I realized that it was just the same shame that would wash over me. What's wrong with me? And I would beat myself up. I would call myself lazy. I would promise I'm going to hard tomorrow. Then tomorrow came, the same thing. The cycle has repeated for months until I learned something that broke me open. So here's what I've discovered, and it changed everything. Every action you take or don't take is driven by a feeling. Every feeling you have is created by thought. That's it. That's the whole thing. So thought creates feeling. Feeling drives action. So if you're not starting your business, it's because of a feeling. And that feeling can be created by a thought. Probably a thought you're not even aware of. So you're not lazy. You're not undisciplined. You're not broken. You're just having a thought that is creating a feeling that is making action feel impossible. And until you see that thought, no amount of willpower is going to change anything. So this blew my mind when I first learned it from my mentor, Brooke Castillo, who's the founder of a life coach school where I got certified as a coach. Because I'd spent so long trying to force myself to start, trying to beat myself into action. That's like trying to drive a car with a parking brake on. You can push the gas pedal, you can burn out the engine, but you're fighting against something that you can't even see. So the parking brake is like that thought, the invisible thought that is creating the feeling that's stopping you. So today, I'm going to help you find that thought. Not so that you can beat yourself up about it, but so you can actually finally understand yourself. And then from that understanding, everything changes. So we're going to explore the hidden patterns that keeping you stuck and why you can't see them. Why your mind has been running like this unsupervised toddler and what it costs you. Why forcing yourself actually doesn't work and what to do instead. And how to understand yourself before you try to change yourself. And the one question that changes everything. So let's get into this. So I'm going to start with something that might seem obvious once I say it, but I promise it's not. So everything you do in your life is because you want to feel a certain way. Absolutely everything. You eat because you want to feel satisfied, comforted, or less anxious. You scroll your phone because you want to feel distracted or entertained or numb. You don't start your business because you want to avoid the feeling something. Fear, failure, the possibility that you're not good enough. So every action or inaction is driven by feeling, always. And here's the part that changes everything. Your feelings don't come from your circumstances. They come from your thoughts about your circumstances. So same situation, different thought, completely different feeling, completely different action. So there's this invisible pattern that's running your life. And I call it the hidden pattern because most of us can't see it. So thought, feeling, action, result. So if you want different results, well, you need to change your action. But you can't change your action until you change your feeling. And you can't change the feeling until you find the thought that's creating it. So most of us, we don't know what we're actually thinking. The thoughts are invisible. They're just running in the background like this software we never checked, but it's installed. So for example, Emily, she works in accounting. She's got a good job, steady paycheck. For 2 years, she wanted to start her bookkeeping business online on the side, help small business owners, build something on her own. 2 years thinking about it, 2 years not doing it. So she scheduled time to work on it. And then the time came, she'd feel this weight on her chest. So she would do something else instead, like clean the house, scroll on her phone, answer emails that could have waited. And then she said, I don't understand. I want this. I think about it constantly. Why can't I make myself start? So I ask you, when it's time for you to work on your business and you don't, what are you feeling in that exact moment? Right before you pick that phone instead. So she closed her eyes, really felt into this. Heavy, she said, like there is a weight in my chest and kind of hopeless, I guess. Like, what's the point? So okay, I said, and what are you thinking right before you feel that heaviness? And she got quiet. She sat there for a moment and then she started tearing up. What if I do all this work and it doesn't pan out? What if I put myself out there and nobody hires me? What if I find out that I'm actually not good enough at this? I've never done this before. I don't have a proof it's going to work. What if I try and I fail and then everyone will see it? That was it. That was the thought. What if I do all of this work and it doesn't pan out? And that thought created the feeling of hopelessness. So, and that made action feel pointless. It was pointless. So she wasn't lazy. She wasn't undisciplined. She wasn't broken. She was having a completely understandable thought, one that her brain used to protect her from potential failure and humiliation. That thought wasn't stupid. It was actually very smart for a brain trying to keep her safe from that pain. But the problem wasn't the thought itself. The problem was that she didn't even know that she was having it. It was just running in the background, creating feelings, stopping her. And she had no idea that it was there. Once she saw it, once she named it out loud, well, something shifted in her body. And she told me she actually felt lighter, like she's been carrying something invisible, and then she finally put it down. So seeing the thought didn't make it disappear, but seeing it was everything, because you can't change what you can't see. So here's what I want you to understand. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not lacking discipline. You're simply having thoughts, and probably thoughts that you're not even aware of. And they're creating feelings that are driving you in action. And until you see those thoughts, you can't change them. So the pattern is thought, feeling, action. So if you want to change your action, well, you have to understand the thought and the feeling first. And that is this hidden pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So here's something that might make you really uncomfortable. And it made me uncomfortable when I first heard it. So most of us have never been taught to watch our own thinking. We just think automatically, constantly, without questioning what's actually going in our heads. So we're not separate from our thoughts. We are our thoughts, or at least that's how it feels. But here's the truth. Your mind has been running unsupervised for most of your life. So as my mentor explained it, picture it this way. Imagine a 2-year-old left alone in the house, no adult watching, no supervision at all. So what happens? It's going to be chaos. This toddler is going to find scissors, draw on the walls, eat things that he shouldn't eat, make a disaster of everything. And that is what this unsupervised mind does. It just picks up thoughts from your childhood that not serving you anymore. And it just repeats the same negative patterns because repetition is efficient, it's safe, it's familiar. So it runs old programs, beliefs from your parents, your teachers, your culture, your peers without arguing with them. And you don't even know that it's happening. So we have, about 60,000 thoughts every day. So if you never directed your mind, you never told it actually what to think, it's just been running wild, thinking whatever it wants and whatever it learned from others, whatever keeps you safe in the most primitive way. So thoughts like, I'm not good enough for this. People like me don't succeed. Who am I to do this? It probably won't work anyway. I'll look stupid if I try. So these thoughts are playing on repeat and they're creating feelings and they're driving your actions. And you're not even aware that they're aware. So I'm thinking about also Rachel, who works as a teacher. She wanted to start her touring business online. So she has 15 years of experience. She helped hundreds of kids succeed. But then every time she sat down to create content or to reach someone, she felt this wave of smallness, like she was shrinking. She'd close her laptop. She'd tell herself she'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow, the same thing. So when I asked her what she was thinking, she said, I don't know. I just feel small, like I'm not supposed to be doing this. So we looked deeper and I asked her, okay, when did you first learn that you were small? And she got quiet and she said, oh my gosh, I know exactly when. When I was young, maybe she was 7 or 8, she'd done something that got her noticed. She raised her hand in class. She showed off a little. And then someone who loved her told her, don't be too big, don't stand out, don't draw attention to yourself. And it was said with love, probably to protect her from criticism and judgment. And it might have even been a good advice for a kid in her situation. But here she is, 30 plus years later, and that thought is still running. Don't be too big. And what does building your own business require? Being visible, standing out, drawing attention to yourself. So her unsupervised mind was running a childhood program that was directly sabotaging her adult dream. She had no idea. It was just there, invisible, automatic, running the show. So when she finally saw it, when she connected the dots, she put her hand on her heart and she said, oh my gosh, I fought this for 30 years. I never questioned it, not once. I just felt like the truth. And that's exactly what unsupervised minds do. You keep thinking the same thoughts so many times that it starts feeling like facts, like the truth, like reality, like that's just how things are. These are not facts. They're just thoughts. They're just sentences in your brain that you learned somewhere, and they just never stopped repeating. But once you see them, you turn the light on. Now you finally have a choice, because you can't change what you can't see. But once you see it, everything becomes possible. So here's what most of us do wrong. And I did this for years. We try to change our actions without changing the feelings and our thoughts that are driving that. We say, I'm going to make myself do this. I'm going to use my willpower. I'm going to push through. And sometimes it works for a day or a week, maybe even a month if you're really determined. But eventually you stop because you're fighting yourself. So think about it. If your thought is, this probably won't work anyway, that thought creates a feeling. Hopelessness, apathy. Why bother? And then you're trying to take action, create content, reach out to potential clients, start building your business, but you do it from a place of hopelessness. You're basically driving with a parking brake on. You push hard the gas pedal, but then you burn the rubber. When you're working against that feeling that is created by thought, it's exhausting. It doesn't last. And I know that because I've tried that for years in my business. I forced myself to create content. I pushed through that resistance. I told myself, stop being weak, just do it. And I would last for a while, and then I would crash. I couldn't even look at my laptop. I would burn out. I couldn't even think about my business. Because again, I was using willpower to override what I was actually feeling. And here's the thing about willpower. It's you against you. You're trying to defeat your own mind with your own mind. And when it's you against you, you're always going to be the loser. Even if you win, even if you force yourself to take that action, you are losing because you're exhausted, depleted, riding on fumes and self-hatred. And that's not sustainable. That's not how you build something that lasts. So also think about Amanda, who's the nurse who's been trying to build her online business for 3 years. 3 years of forcing herself to work on it after 12-hour shifts, pushing through the exhaustion, telling herself, oh, she just needed more discipline. And then she'd last for a few weeks, and then she'd crash. She'd stop completely. She'd feel like a total failure. And then she told me what the crashes felt like. She felt like I couldn't even get out of my bed. And she would stare at the ceiling, wondering what's wrong with me. Seems like everyone else can do this. Why can't I? And then she would spend weeks beating herself up. And then eventually she'd try again. Same pattern, force, crash, self-hatred, repeat. 3 years of this cycle. And the problem again wasn't discipline. The problem was that she was trying to change her actions without understanding what was driving them. She was at war with herself and she kept losing. So my mentor, Brooke Castillo, she said something that I'll never forget. She said, you cannot struggle yourself into change. You can't beat yourself up into change. It will not be permanent. It will not last. So, and I kind of resisted that at first. And, sometimes you just need to push through. Sometimes discipline is the answer. And yes, discipline matters, but discipline built on self-hatred, that's not discipline, it's punishment. And then punishment doesn't create lasting change. It creates cycles of force and crash and shame. So what creates lasting change is understanding, compassion, curiosity. So when you understand why you're not starting, when you see the thought and feel the feeling with compassion instead of judgment, then change becomes possible. Not forced, not struggle, possible. So here's what it can look like. So Nicole, who worked in finance, she made herself create content for her digital course for smart budgeting for women. She planned to do it. She would schedule the time. When the time came, she would just freeze. She would just stare at the blank screen. She felt paralyzed, and her instinct was to beat herself up. What's wrong with me? Why can't I just do this? And everyone seems to be able to just create content and post. Why am I so broken? But instead of forcing herself, she got curious. She put her hand on her chest and asked, what am I feeling right now? Like actually feeling in my body. Fear, she said. My heart is racing. My stomach is tight. I feel scared. Okay. And what are you thinking that's creating this fear? And then so she sat with that, really let herself feel it. When she said, if I put myself out there and fail, everyone will see. Everyone will know I couldn't do it. That would be humiliating. I'd rather not try than to fail publicly. And that was it. So no wonder she was frozen. Her brain was trying to protect her from that public humiliation. That's actually pretty smart. So once she saw that thought, she didn't have to force herself anymore. She could just have compassion for it. Of course I'm scared. I don't want to be humiliated. That makes total sense. My brain is just trying to protect me. And then from that compassion, she could ask, is this thought actually true? Is it true that everyone is watching? Is it true that failure equals humiliation? And she just started to question the thought. Not fight it, question it. The fear didn't vanish, but it softened. It made room for something else. Curiosity. And then from that place, action became possible, not forced. So possible. And that's the difference. So here's what I wish someone told me years ago, is that you must understand yourself before you can change yourself. You have to see the pattern. You have to really see it with compassion before you can shift it. And most of us skip a step. We see something we don't like about ourselves. I'm not starting, I'm procrastinating, I'm stuck. And we immediately try to fix it, try to force it, beat it into submission. But that doesn't work because you can't change what you don't understand. So when I work with women who want to build their businesses online, this is really the hardest part because you have to discover that pattern. Something like it could be, it's not going to work, I'm not good enough, and then notice that immediate reaction. So the immediate reaction, I'm just going to stop thinking it. That's dumb. I'm just going to think something positive instead. And what I say is, no, wait, slow down. Before you try to change it, can we just understand it? Can we just give space and get curious about why you're thinking this? Because here's what I've learned. Because everyone who has a really good reason for why they do what they do or they don't, everyone has a good reason. And all the thoughts, even the rational thoughts, right? They, when you see those thoughts that are sabotaging you, you actually can see that they have a purpose. They are protecting you. They are keeping you from danger. So they're keeping you safe. So another woman in my business network who felt like she was at maximum capacity because she's a single mom, she works full time, and she had a thought that if I just add this one more thing, it's going to break me. And she just felt like, and she didn't even realize that she had that thought. And when I said, okay, let's try to understand it. So you thinking you can't handle anything else? And then so she thought about it, and she said, because I've been broken before, because I've been telling myself that I have to do everything, I have to work full time, I have to raise my daughter, I'm trying to be perfect at all of that, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't stop crying, and I spent literally 2 weeks just barely able to function. So my brain knows when I take on too much, and it just sends me to collapse. And so she was terrified of this happening again. And the thought was, I can't handle anything else. And it wasn't weakness. It was just simply her brain was trying to protect her from another breakdown. And it actually was kind of loving in a kind of protective, scared way. So once she understood that, really understood it with compassion, something shifted inside her body because she took a deep breath and she said, okay, it's not that I'm weak or incapable. I'm just scared. And my brain is scared for me. So she wasn't fighting herself anymore. She was working with herself now. She said out loud to her own brain, okay, I hear you. You are scared that I'm going to break again. That makes sense. You've seen me break before. You're trying to keep me safe. And then she asked, but what if we do this differently? What if building this business doesn't mean running at 150%? What if we start with just 30 minutes a day and see how it feels? What if I promise to stop if I get too much? So the fear didn't disappear, but it kind of softened because she wasn't fighting it anymore. She was listening to it, respecting it, working with it. And that's what this self-compassion does. It creates space. So when you judge yourself, when you call yourself lazy, weak, broken, then you hide from yourself. And you don't want to look at what's really going on. But when you approach yourself with this openness and curiosity, why you might be thinking this? What is this thought trying to protect me from? Then you open up. You can see clearly. You can understand. And from that understanding, change becomes natural. Not forced, natural. So you're not defeating yourself. You're working with yourself. And that is how lasting change actually happens. So I'm going to give you something practical. Now, you can you can do this starting tonight. Just ask a simple question. And this changed everything for me and changed. So the question is, why? So not just why, just why, like curiosity, not judgment, like genuine fascination with yourself. Like you are this mystery worth solving. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I be thinking that thought? Why does this pattern keep showing up? And here's how you can use it. So The next time that you notice that you're not starting, you plan to work on your business, you didn't start, then pause. Just don't beat yourself up. Instead, you put your hand on your heart, on your chest. You take a breath and you ask, what am I feeling right now in my body? And name it. Be specific. Anxiety feels different from dread. Fear feels different from hopelessness. So heavy is different from numb. And then what is the thought that is creating this feeling? What sentence is going through my mind that is making me feel this way? And it might be, I don't know where to start. Or what if nobody cares? Or I'm not probably good enough for this. Or this is going to take me forever. I don't have time. Whatever it is, just write it down so you can see it on paper. Get it out of your head and into the light. And then ask. And this is the most important part. Why I might be thinking this. Not why am I so stupid for thinking this. That's a judgment. But why like compassion? Why like understanding? Of course I'm thinking this. Because this thought makes sense because, and I probably learned this when. So, and let yourself understand. Let yourself have compassion for the part of you that have been carrying this thought. Maybe for years, maybe for decades. We're probably trying to protect you from something. From from that place, you can ask one more thing. Okay, is this thought serving me? Is it helping me build what I want? Is it moving me forward toward my dream or keeping me stuck? If it's not serving you, you can start to question it gently, not fight it. Just question, is it true? Is it definitely 100% true? What if it's not true? What would I think instead? How would I feel? What would I do? So this process, the feeling, finding the thought, understanding it with compassion, and then gently questioning it. This is the path to getting unstuck. And it's not about forcing, it's not about willpower, it's not about beating yourself up. It's simply understanding yourself. So change becomes natural. Thought, feeling, action. So when you change the thought with understanding, with compassion, then everything shifts. And not through force, simply through awareness. So that is the question that changes everything. So let me bring it all together, everything that we covered. Why are you still waiting and what to do about it? So one is your actions are driven by your feelings, and your feelings are created by your thoughts. If you're not starting, well, it's because of a thought, probably the one you can't see. And as you saw, 3 different examples, once you see the thought, everything shifts. 2, your mind has been running unsupervised, probably since childhood. And I've been thinking thoughts that I never chose, like was old programs, was borrowed beliefs, was protective patterns, and they're just not serving you anymore. Just like with other women, you could be thinking, and they could be running on the background invisibly. 3, you can't force lasting change. When you try to change your actions without changing your thoughts and feelings that drive them, you are at war with yourself. And when you go against you, you will always lose. And again, you can completely shift that. 4 is that you must understand yourself before you can change yourself. So compassion reveals what judgment hides. And what you will find out, it's not weakness, it's protection. And once you understand it, you can work with it instead of working against it. And 5, the question that changes everything is why. With curiosity and not judgment. What am I feeling? What thought is creating it? Why might I be thinking this? So from understanding, change becomes natural. So this is, let me bring it all to full circle. I used to sit here, tightness in my chest. Why can't I start? Why do I reach out for my phone? Or I used to reach out for wine when I used to drink. And I thought that was the self-discipline. I thought it was a lack of willpower, and I would force myself. And then finally, I realized that I was wrong, and the problem wasn't the discipline, and the problem was that I just didn't understand what was driving my inaction. So I had those invisible thoughts. They were creating invisible feelings, and that made action impossible. And then I was blaming myself. And once I learned to see all of this and see my thoughts and name the feelings and understand these patterns with compassion instead of judgment and force, and everything shifted. And it's not overnight, not perfectly, but that war ended. And that's exactly what's possible for you. So I would love to hear from you what's been the biggest insight from you. And if you find that one thought that doesn't serve you, please share with me, DM me. And remember, you're not broken. You're simply having thoughts. And those thoughts, you probably have never looked at them. And they are creating the feelings that making it impossible for you to get started. So I trust this served you, and just realize this is how a human brain works. Once you see it, you can change it. And that's your superpower. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. If you found this episode to be very valuable and there's a woman who needs to hear it, please share it with her. Sending you much love. I'll see you in the next episode.